Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Cinema Wave podcast here at the Culture Wave Media Network. I am by my lonesome for this. My name is Darian, and I'm going to be recapping and talking and reviewing a bit of the first two episodes of season 3 of Euphoria. There's a few people on the network that want to cover the show. We've just been having some scheduling conflicts, and since I ended up missing out on episode 1, I wanted to come back here for episode 2 to talk a little bit about that and then kind of recap some things from the first season, as well as we've had a massive gap in terms of a time jump for the season in the content that's in the show, but also in real life, we have a 4-year gap in terms of the last time we saw these characters. So Euphoria is and was a show that was very much in the zeitgeist for a large part of the back end of the 2010s and the early 2020s. There is a lot to make of this show. It's a show that's created by Sam Levinson. The biggest thing to come out of this show is the fact that the main cast, the main players of the show, their stardom has grown tremendously from the first time that they were the leads of this series on HBO back in the late 2010s to now where we end up in 2026, where it's taken a long time to get everybody together because of scheduling and also probably because of budgetary things, because their quotes are going to be different. The stardom, as I said, is a lot different than it was when season 1 of Euphoria came out. But just surrounding 3 of the leads of this show, you have Zendaya, very much the face of fashion lines, and she is headlining movies. She's in the Marvel Universe. She's been face-to-face with Timothée Chalamet when it comes to Dune. She's leading one of the biggest movies in the country right now, which is a smaller kind of A24 release, The Drama with Robert Pattinson, her Dune castmate for Dune Part 3. Then you have Jacob Elordi. Elordi has since become an Oscar nominee for his role as Frankenstein in Frankenstein. I believe he's been an Emmy and Golden Globe nominee as well. Zendaya also has won previously an Emmy for her role as Rue in Euphoria. And then you have Sydney Sweeney, who has the biggest box office hit of the 3 of them combined. If you think about The Housemaid and how that movie opened, you think about the fact that she's led other feature films, that she has her own production company now, and she's greenlighting other things of that nature. And then you have like the smaller types of actors that have also kind of become bigger names and have done bigger things since Euphoria has debuted, like Hunter Schafer, Alexa Demi, Maud Apatow. And they bring in a lot of players for season 3 right now with Rosalia comes in. You have Priscilla Delgado, Chloe Cherry makes a bigger appearance in this season. Adewale Akinoue Akbaje. I might be butchering his name, so I apologize in advance, but he is the gentleman that plays Alamo Brown in the first 2 episodes. Toby Wallace is in this season. Marshawn Lynch is in this season. Kadeem Hardison is in this season. We got his intro in this second episode, America My Dream. But let's talk a little bit about the show in general. Whether you like it or not, it's polarizing. It's a series that it gets a lot of attention. It gets a lot of conversation started. As a former high school educator, I had a lot of students that watched this show because it took place in high school with a lot of older actors, not high school age, playing high schoolers. And I think they did the right thing in season 3 by obviously creating a time jump. Now, the season 3 premiere of Euphoria becomes this completely different show. And Levinson had kind of talked a bit about that in interviews, that it was going to be different. We were going to see a different side of these characters. We were going to put them in different environments. And even I think a lot of the lead cast was like, if we're going to come back and do something like this, I mean, again, money does play a factor, obviously, but I do think that they wanted to do something a little bit different with their characters and get away from the childish elements that were being kind of put in, whether it's placing these older actors in high school or alluding to some of these things that would propagandize that time in your life as something that was a lot more risque, that involved drugs and involved sex. And it was something that I'm sure that the producers kind of grew into a place where they didn't feel comfortable either. So this one does start off very differently. We have Rue in the premiere in this desert. She is trying to get over the border. You find out that she's in Mexico. She's trying to get over the border back into America. And you find out that she, obviously it's kind of the aftermath of season 2, where she still owes Lori a lot of money from the money that she stole or the drugs that she stole. And she is now in debt to her. The premiere of this season didn't necessarily work for me. It was something where I was like, why do we care about these characters? We didn't see a lot of certain characters in the premiere. We're losing out on main players because they've been recast, or I shouldn't say recast, but Some of them, unfortunately, have passed away when you think about characters like Angus Cloud's character. Then you have characters that are completely replaced, such as Rue's sister, and Barbie Ferreira's character obviously didn't return either for this season. So you're missing elements of what made the original show so compelling, and characters that kind of have these other storylines that now you're just going to completely erase, or you're going to handle them in your own way, which we find out a little bit in episode 1 with Angus Cloud. By the end of episode 1, we don't see much of Jules' character at all in episode 1 of season 3. Then in season 2, I do like America My Dream as an episode a little bit better, but at the same time, we get almost no Lexi in this episode, Maud Apatow's character. And it's going to be a balancing act throughout the entire season, which we know, I believe it's going to be 8 episodes, the full season, what we're supposed to be getting. So we're going to go all the way until Memorial Day, week after Memorial Day weekend, May 31st. It seems like a lot of the cast members may be checked out. It might not be characters they want to return to. And then you have Sydney Sweeney, who is doing this very interesting thing with her character where, again, like let's just do check-ins with everybody. I kind of gave you a little bit of the run of what Rue is doing. Rue winds up at the end of episode 1 meeting a gentleman named Alamo Brown, played by the gentleman I mentioned before. Again, I don't want to butcher his name, but the actor is Adewale Akinnuoye Agbaje. He plays Killer Croc in the David Ayer version of Suicide Squad. That's what I best know him for. But this role is fantastic for him. I think he's going to be one of the defining performers of this season. As the new cast members go, he's definitely the best and the one that stands out the most to me so far. He kind of comes into Rue's circle as Rue is making a drop for Lori. Accidentally, the drugs that she delivers are laced with fentanyl, killing one of the hookers that are at Alamo Brown's house. And so she admits to not knowing anything, and she begs to work for him. So he decides to keep her on board, and she decides to work at the strip club that he runs. And so at the end of episode 1, that's what we find out about Rue. With Jules, we get a quick thing. It's said that she is a hooker. She is a call girl at this point in her life. We don't get much else from her. Lexi Howard is working as a Hollywood assistant on Hollywood sets, doing what she's always loved to do. We find out that Angus Cloud's character is in jail. He's not killed off in storyline. Sam Levinson has talked a little bit about that, how he didn't feel like it would have been a respectful thing to do. And we don't see him in episode 1, but in episode 2, we do get the return of Eric Dane's Cal Jacobs character. Eric Dane has since passed away. So rest in peace to him. He's great in the show. He's great in a lot. He was great in a lot of things. And so this is, I believe, one of, if not the last project that he will be a part of in his filmography. Then we catch up with Nate and Cassie, where this is where things start to get a little bit more interesting, just to see the drama of their relationship. And Nate is taking over his father's business. He's trying to get investors involved in his construction company. And yet it's on the precipice of this massive wedding that Nate and Cassie are planning. We start to see kind of cracks in the armor of their relationship because Cassie is constantly wanting more and more and spending more and more of Nate's money, even though she doesn't work. And Nate is feeling a pressure from that. It basically becomes an argument over flowers, $50,000 worth of flowers that Cassie wants. And Nate objects to this. He says, that's ridiculous. I'm not going to be a part of this. And she says, all right, well, then let me help pay for them. I have an idea on how I want to do that. Let me start an OnlyFans and kind of cater to an audience. And she's kind of objectifying, well, not even kind of, she's objectifying herself to do some crazy things. She's dressing like a dog. She is pouring ice cream on herself. She is, again, objectifying herself with nudity on the internet. And it's something that when Nate finally kind of understands what's happening, he completely shuts her down. He's still the same controlling character. I know Elordi has talked in interviews about how he feels that Nate has changed. It's going to be really interesting to see throughout the season how those things change, if we see the real change in that. But episode 2 is a little bit more compelling to me because we start to get a little bit more of these other characters. Alexa Demi's Maddie comes back into Cassie's life because Cassie says that she needs her help in terms of turning her career around and making it maybe more mainstream, more model heavy. She understands social media. And we get a really great scene between the two of them where Cassie kind of isn't able to identify who she actually is. She's doing a lot of this just because she believes that she can fit every box, and she's just this beautiful woman that everybody will give their money to, and she's prettier than everybody else, so why can't she get the subscribers that she believes that she is deserving of? And so the dynamic between her and Maddie going forward, I think, is going to be really interesting. At the end of this episode, we also finally get the real reveal of Jules. She is dating a man who has a family. It's a monogamous relationship. His wife is aware of him seeing Jules, but Rue still has these strong feelings for Jules, even though she claims that she doesn't. And she is California sober now, which means she's smoking weed a little bit. She's drinking, but she's not doing any of the hard stuff that she previously has done. And so at the end of the episode, there's that will they, won't they between Jules and Rue, where Jules is kind of like, you can't just show up here like I'm a piece of meat. And then she does kind of allude to Rue coming and maybe helping her out in the bath or having some sort of sexual encounter between the two of them. It still has a lot of the DNA of Euphoria. I will say that. It has a lot of what made the show in the beginning, I feel like, so beloved. But the thing is that now we've seen these actors out of this element and out of this type of environment for quite a while. And I just don't know if it's going to sort of bring the audience back. Now, the numbers are huge for where we ended up with the season premiere. Had great numbers comparatively to where we ended up with season 2 4 years ago. But I don't know if, again, the fervor is there for this show going forward week to week. I will say this. As somebody who would consider themselves somewhat of a fan of the original 2 seasons, I wasn't overly in love with the series. There were some great episodes. There were some not so great episodes. I do disagree with the fact that they believe that some of these actors are not giving their all, because I do think that they have some sort of connection to the show as something that was kind of a springboard to their success and their achievement as actors. And it gave them, specifically Zendaya, it gave her a lot of really raw material to work with and work from, coming off of doing things for Disney Channel. So Zendaya, I believe, is still at the top of her game in this. Sydney Sweeney, I think we're seeing some good work from her. I do believe that after this 3rd episode, from what I've heard online, and also just the fact that this is going to be probably a big blow up episode in terms of her wedding and where things can go with her and Maddie kind of being face to face again. I'm excited to see where they go with her character. Now, Elordi as Nate, I'll say this, coming out of the first 2 seasons of the show, I wasn't the biggest Elordi fan, having only seen Euphoria. So it's not a character that I relate to. It's not a character that I really care about. It's not a character that I feel I'm really connected to in any which way when it comes to Euphoria. So unfortunately, I do feel the same here in season 3. I hope, like I said, Elordi alluded to some different things in interviews. I hope that changes over time. But right now, I'm not really vibing with him. I always loved Lexi, so I hope we do get some more Lexi and more Maud Apatow going forward. And I'm kind of just curious to see where this all ends up. I mean, we don't have any real idea of where this show is going to go and how we're going to see these characters now in a time jump, but still kind of being the same characters that they were previously, how that's going to connect, and if it has a satisfying ending, because I'm pretty positive this is going to be the end of the show going forward. So going to be curious to see where we end up with that. But I mean, again, I don't have much to say in these first 2 episodes because there's not a lot that we have worked through yet. There's not a lot with these characters that we've learned so far through the first 2 episodes. And maybe you know this, maybe you don't. One of the first series that I covered on Culture Wave years ago with Liz was The Idol. It was highly anticipated because we were decent fans of Euphoria, to see what Sam Levinson could do with something different. And it's one of the only shows in the history of this network we backed out. We watched for 2 or 3 weeks and we said, no, we think the show is terrible. We think it's objectifying. It's a lot of things that it's not even interesting in any way, shape, or form. So I don't feel that way with Euphoria. I'm going to watch it through the end. Again, I feel connected to these characters in some way previously, having watched the last 2 seasons, but I want to see more. And I think there's more still to be said and to be done with these characters. So I'm curious on where they're going to go with it. But what do you guys think? Are you guys vibing with the first 2 episodes of Euphoria thus far for season 3? I'm excited to hop on week to week, hopefully going forward with, I know Liz said she was going to hop on some episodes. Zach, I believe, said he might hop on some. Vinny, Sean, Michael, a couple of different people that have watched the first 2 seasons. So hopefully as the weeks go along, it's not just me yapping at the camera for 15, 20 minutes, wherever we end up at the end of this. But I'm curious on your guys' thoughts, and I'm curious on where you guys kind of stand with Euphoria season 3 thus far, now that we're 2 episodes in. So we're a quarter of the way through, and we're 4 years removed from the previous season that was, I feel like, the most beloved. And then things kind of stalled out because all of these actors went on to do different and bigger and better things. So curious your guys' thoughts. Please leave the comments in the comment section. Love to have a conversation with you guys. Like this video if you can, and subscribe to us here at the Culture Wave Media Network. As I said, we're going to be covering the show for the next 6 weeks, week to week, hopefully. And it won't just be me talking about it. But you guys can also follow us on social media if you don't already. All that stuff is below me in the video, and it's also in our YouTube description. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys next week for more Euphoria coverage.
This is the culture.